This video is for the person that is busy with a lot of things. Maybe you have a busy job or you have multiple jobs like I do, but you nonetheless want to make time for creating content. I have been successfully making YouTube videos every single week for the past handful of months. By no means am I perfect, but I do have a system in place. I've created some things that make it a lot more manageable, and I want to share those things here with you right now. So let's take a look. All right, so we'll start with the tippity top. This is what I call my master goal book. I've discussed this briefly in other videos. I'll give you just a brief overview right here. This goal book is where I keep all of my long-term, everything from my long-term, decade plus out vision, all the way down to the micro level, day by day by day by day plans and goals. And I wouldn't necessarily say that I manage my time with this journal, so to speak, but what it does do for me is orientate my focus in a particular direction on multiple scopes of time. So let me show you an example. If I come over here to the annual plan section, for 2025, I give myself 3 central focuses. This is where I want most of my time, my energy, my attention to be directed toward for the duration of the year. For me, it's number 1, build this brand. Number 2, maximize/monetize underutilized space in my home. I already have a guest room that I'm renting out on Airbnb, but I have extra space that I'd like to be able to rent out as well. But part of the one of the things I want to do before doing that is I want to install a second bathroom into my basement, and so it's sort of it's some stepping stones that I'm having to take in order to get to that further monetizing. And then the third thing is to learn how to cook well, and that's toward my long-term health. Moving on to the every scope of time below that, it's a similar kind of process. I have a set of focuses. I would say 3, no more than 3 at most for each scope that you're looking at. And I do that for the seasonal view. I do that for monthly. And then of course I do that for weekly and for daily. I'll tell you, I used to, when I did this daily planning in my Supernote, which I made a video about why I downgraded from this tool called Supernote. Is literally like a $400 tablet that I used for years, and I'm downgrading, so to speak, from that $400 tool to this paper tool, which is $20 or less. I made a video about why I did that. Part of what I'm changing is, instead of on the daily level, time blocking. And so what that means is every day I would have, for example, a morning block where I would do like my hygiene and breakfast and all that stuff. And then I would have a morning work block, and then an afternoon block and an evening block, etc. That's how I used to structure every day. Now moving into this, instead of doing that, I've sort of thrown away time blocking, at least for now. And instead I just give myself a list of the things I want to accomplish. So instead of starting with a structure of what my day looks like in terms of time blocks, and then filling those blocks in with the things that I want to do in each one of them, I'm now simply starting with a blank slate. I'll say for tomorrow, for example, just Thursday, August 28th. And then all I'm asking myself, I'm not giving myself any kind of a template to begin with. Instead, I just ask myself, what are my goals for this day? What do I want to accomplish? And that, I think, even though I'm not managing my time, so to speak, or at least not as precisely as I was, it orients me more strongly toward what it is that I ought to be focusing on, which I think is all the more powerful. The next thing I have in place that makes it easier to stay on top of creating content with the limited amount of time that I have is Notion. And in particular, what I have in place is a system for planning the packages, is what I call them, of my YouTube videos ahead of time. I call this my content ideas Kanban board. I call it content ideas, whereas I used to call it video ideas, because my thinking is I can maybe use this in the future for Instagram and maybe other social media as well, but that's very new and I'm still kind of working that out. So for now, it's mostly YouTube. And here's how it works. I have 5 stages as it stands right now for every YouTube video. When I get a new idea, it always starts with an idea. I could be in the shower, and right after the shower, I want to be able to quickly note down an idea, or late at night, I want to be able to quickly note it down. So I have a shortcut in my phone where I can go into Notion and very quickly add an idea into this database, and it'll show up over here under new/banked. It can be the title of the video, so it's an idea for a title of the video, or it can just be a rough idea of the kind of video that I want to make, some inspirational thing that came across my plate, and I was like, hey, that be a good, cool video. Whatever it is, I put it in as an idea slash title, and then I have that bank that kind of accumulates over time. The next stage of the process is to take from that bank and move it over into my favorites tab or my favorites column. And that's, as it sounds, are the next sort of ideas that I want to tackle in the next handful of videos. It doesn't have to be perfect, exactly the next video that I want to do. It's just it gives me a little bit of focus so that I'm not so overwhelmed with the literally 70 plus ideas that I've accumulated so far, and that I'll only keep growing. I can narrow it down to those that I want to target next. The next column is packaged. This is, again, as it sounds, when I've packaged a video, that's the first step of sort of the creation process. What that means is I have settled, for the most part, on both the title of the video and the thumbnail, because that is what the viewer sees before I've even won their click. It is probably, it's one of the most important things. It can't be ignored, because if nobody views the video in the first place, it doesn't matter how good it is, you didn't win the click. And so you have to think about that ahead of time. But in addition to just winning the click, it also helps me orient the content that I'm going to be putting into the video, because I know more clearly what expectation was set for the viewer before they clicked into my video. The next stage of the process is description. Again, it's pretty self-explanatory. When I've created the package for the video, that doesn't necessarily mean that I've given it a summary. When I give it a summary or a description, that means that I've come in here, I've chosen one of my templates. This is the template that I have in place right now. If I'm targeting a keyword or two, I might list those up here. I don't always, though. I have a description template that I use, and a lot of these I'm not using right now, but it just kind of gives me some ideas for what I might put in a description later. And I will fill this out, and once I have filled it out, the chapters of the video being the most important part of that, then I can move this over into the description panel so that I can see each of my ideas / titles. I can see where they're at in the creation process. And then finally, of course, the last stage of the process is once I've recorded the video, I've edited the video, of course I've already written a description for it, and the description, part of that description comes from having already recorded and edited the video, because that's where the chapters come from. I have to know what content is spoken about at each point of the video in order to fill that out. The last piece is, now that I've done that, I can upload it to YouTube. Generally, I do that a few days ahead of time, and I can schedule it for the following Saturday, which is the day that I post videos every day or every week. And now that I've uploaded it, I can move it over into the final stage, which is uploaded. The last thing that I'll say with respect to this time management as an aspiring content creator that really made a difference for me is as simple as this. I've kind of alluded to it throughout this video. I have committed very simply but very seriously to posting a new video every single Saturday. As simple as that is, it's hard, I think, sometimes for overthinkers like myself to accept the simplicity of something like that, and that something so simple could be so powerful. But it's not in the fanciness or the complexity of a rule or a commitment that gives it its power. It's our faithfulness to following through with that that gives it its power. And another thing that I'll say with respect to that is, you are busy, right? Like, we're all busy. you can use that as an advantage. Here's what I mean. Because you have a commitment to posting a video every single week, but you have this busy life outside of content creation, you're gonna have times where you didn't quite get the quality of the audio that you liked. For example, in the last clip, you probably noticed that the audio shifted a little bit. I don't have time to care whether my content is any good. I know it'll improve with time. So I mentioned earlier a video that I had made about downgrading from my $400 Supernote planning tablet to the paper one that we reviewed in this video. If you enjoy this systems type approach toward improving your learning, you're going to love that video next. It's one of my highest performing ones lately in terms of comments. I'm going to put that as well as a button to subscribe on screen in case you haven't done so already. Otherwise, hasta la próxima, mis polimáticos. Nos vemos.